Hollywood is being rebuilt by artists not afraid to disrupt the status quo, telling fresh stories and bringing to life characters who until now have been confined to the margins. This is Emerging Hollywood. We got a special Emerging Hollywood today. I am here with family.
Yes.
Lala Anthony, how are you?
I'm doing so good. How are you?
I am blessed, black, and highly favored.
I love that.
It feels weird having a conversation with you like this on camera.
It's
but,
different.
You are emerging in Hollywood in such a real way.
Thank you.
So why not?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's start with your childhood, right? I know you're a native New Yorker, then you moved around a bit. Where do you call home?
It's interesting because I was born in Brooklyn and I live in Brooklyn now, so it's kind of like full circle to be born there and live there now. But then I moved to Atlanta in high school, so I have a little bit of like ATL in me as well.
What were your parents like? You know, what values did they instill in you growing up? If you meet your mom, then you can clearly see the apple don't fall too far from the tree.
Thank you. So my parents weren't together, growing up. My dad was a flight attendant. I think I got, my personality from my dad and my drive to want to do more because I didn't see my dad a lot growing up, but in my mind, he was always in like the coolest places, England or, Japan and traveling the world. And I never got to do that growing up, but I would just dream like what that was like. And I'm like, I want to do more with my life so I can see the world. So I kind of got that from my dad without him probably really knowing that. And my mom just kept me grounded and humbled and just was like, my mom's thing was always like, just be a good person. And I really pride myself in really feeling like I am a good person. It wasn't about like, oh, you gotta be a lawyer, you gotta be a doctor. She was just like, just be a good person. And everything else kind of falls into place from there. And that's what I've always, strived to be, is just a really genuinely good person.
Oh no, Lala, your face card is clean. Like you don't ever hear anybody say anything bad about Lala. Everybody that knows Lala is like, oh nah, Lala good people.
Thank you,
Thank
you.
Well, not everybody knows that you speak fluent Spanish too. You're a proud Afro-Latina. Was that a strong part of your identity growing up?
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, my family's Puerto Rican, they're from Puerto Rico. So yeah, just the culture itself is family and being together and having family meals and dinners and holidays and traditions. So we still do that to this day.
Did anybody ever challenge that, you weren't black enough or Latina enough?
I got that at different points in my life and career, like, oh, now she wants to say she's Spanish. Oh, now it's like, no, I'm black. And I'm Puerto Rican. Like, I'm proud of both. Like, you're not going to say, oh, she's trying to exclude this or not be this or that. We're not playing those games. I represent both so proud, and I want to be able to open doors for all of us to be able to do amazing things. So I don't get caught up in that.
Now, you said before that you knew what being broke felt like.
Yes.
And you never wanted that feeling again. So how young were you when you understood the concept of money and not having enough of it?
My mom was married to my stepdad, and when she left him, that's when I felt like, oh, it ain't that sweet anymore. That's when we moved to Atlanta. We moved in with my aunt and my cousin, and I knew my mom was struggling to try to, get us on our feet. And at that point, I'm like, I have to help her. So I was getting all kind of like, I was probably like 15, 16 at the time, so getting all kind of odds and ends jobs, Baskin Robbins, Marshalls. I had like 100 jobs, but I was like, I gotta help my mom because I don't like how this feels, not being able to get certain things. Or I loved living with my aunt and my cousins, like I love that, but I realized like we didn't have our own apartment. I didn't have my own bedroom. I didn't have those things. So I just remember it so vividly. I worked so hard to never go back to feeling like I can't have something again.
That explains a lot. I mean, that explains your hustle now.
Yeah.
How did that shape who you became?
I just work really hard. I'm just a hustler. I enjoy working. I don't know anything else. It's like once it's in you, it's in you. Even when people say, oh, well, you don't have to work so hard anymore. I mean, they say it to you. Like, you got 100 jobs. Like, you don't have to do all of this. It's like, it's all I know. And it keeps me happy. And I think in some ways, the more I'm getting into learning about, and a lot of this is from you, learning about like mental health and therapy and all that stuff, I realize in some ways it's a form of therapy, but also it's become a crutch for me to sometimes I have to deal with a lot of things going on in my life. You put something up on Instagram and I reposted it, but it was just saying like staying busy
is a trauma response to trauma.
Is a trauma response.
Yeah.
That hit me so hard because I feel in a lot of ways that's me as well. So there's positive and negatives in it because sometimes I don't know how to slow down because I worry if I slow down, then like the reality of a lot of other things in my life will hit. So I just work, and take care of Cayenne. That's like what I know how to do and what I know I'm really great at.
What you running from, La?
A broken heart.
What kind of help did you get from your family growing up that helped you navigate your identity?
So my family didn't know anything about the business, but what my family didn't know was support and supporting me in whatever I wanted to do. When I left Atlanta at probably 17 years old to move to LA, and I had never been to take over radio in LA, my mom was like, I don't know what you're doing, but I support you. Whatever you need to do, go ahead. And at 17 years old, she put me on a plane to go to LA. She actually came with me, and I moved to LA after going there for the first time to start a radio show in LA. So the support was always there. And sometimes all you need is the support. I didn't need anyone to understand the business for me. I was gonna figure that out, but I needed the support.
What did you say to her though? Like, what did you tell her you was going to do?
I just said, Mom, this is a great opportunity. Like, to be on the radio, you might not understand it, but I can see this radio job taking me places, and I want to give it a try. And she's like, you know best. Like, if you say it, let's do it. And she went with me on the plane. I had never been to, as 17 years old, I had never been to LA before. I never traveled to Los Angeles, got off a plane. She probably stayed 2 or 3 days, said goodbye, and I started my life in LA, just like that.
So you consider radio the start of your career?
Oh, I feel like I owe my entire career to radio. I have such a respect for radio because without radio, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I know that radio is just a place that I can always call home, so to speak, and that makes me really happy about that. And then from radio, I got confidence to do all these other things. Like, without radio kind of building up my confidence, I couldn't go and host TRL and all the MTV stuff, and then the acting and the producing. It all started with radio.
Now, you talked about, being on the radio. You interned at radio at 15, right? So you was ambitious from the jump.
Yeah.
Who planted that seed? Because you said your mom them didn't care about celebrity or nothing.
Well, the seed was planted because I love music. Even to this day, I'm just such a music person. I wanted to be a rapper growing up. Like, I had all these dreams of like music. So with the internship, it started, I'll never forget, because the Wu-Tang Clan had a store opening. They opened a store in Atlanta. It was like Wu Wear or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, I want to come to the opening. I was going on my groupie shit trying to chase Method Man down. So I was like, I just want to meet Method Man. That's why I'm going. So I went and I saw people putting up posters and all this stuff. I was like, what are you guys doing? They're like, oh, we intern for the radio station. That's who's throwing the grand opening today. So I was like, I would love to do something like this. They're like, well, here's a guy, you got to call him. And that's how it all started. It was really my love for music that got me my internship and my job and everything like that.
And you've admitted to lying about your age to work at certain places while still in high school. So why did you feel the need to lie about your age?
Well, I had to lie because the internship at Hot 97 in Atlanta, you had to be like 17 years old. I was only 15. And Shaka was like, I could get in trouble for this. I can't hire a 15-year-old, Shaka Zulu, for those who don't know. Ludacris's manager to this day. But I had to lie to get in there and say that I was older than I really was. And it worked, and eventually we laughed about it later on. But to get in the door, I had to. I don't care. I was willing to do whatever. I had the whole fake ID. I did everything I needed to do, but I got the job, and then I proved myself to be, of value to them over
For
there.
anybody who thinks there's no such thing as a good lie, that is a good lie.
This is one. Otherwise, I would not have gotten the internship. And the internship, I was working for free. It's not like I was getting paid for it, but it was opening up the door for me to just get in the radio world and in the radio station.
And this was the time when you first started to meet artists, executives. How did you approach that world, and what lessons did you learn early on that help you now?
Shaka said, don't you dare ever sleep with any of them. That was like the first, because he saw what was happening. Like, rappers coming through, you said executives, like, oh, who's this little young girl? He was like, don't you dare. And Shaka was really my mentor and a father figure to me and so many things. And I don't know, sometimes when I talk about him, I could get a little emotional because I owe so much to him, and life lessons that he's taught me that I carry with me to this day. Like the self-respect I have for myself. Let the work speak for itself. You know, make it about the work. Don't make it about anything else. Be a hard worker. Come early. Stay late. All the things I still do now, I learned from him.
Is it because I see you got a little emotional? Is it because he was one of the first people that actually saw you?
One of the first people that saw me and also saw at that time how I was needing some kind of male figure in my life. And someone else could have taken advantage of that in a way or used my vulnerability for, you know, other things. And for him to just say, like, I'm going to take you under my wing and really teach you radio, but I'm going to teach you life at the same time. Not a lot of people would do that. So it's just something I'm so grateful for because look where it got me.
Now you became practically a household name as an MTV VJ on TRL. That was like the epicenter of pop culture at the time. How did that change your life?
Oh my
TRL
God.
and Direct Effects. People forget about Direct Effects.
Effects. Shout out to DJ Clue. You can't forget about that. It changed my life. That's when I was like, oh, I never forget the first time I had got the MTV job, and I'll never forget the first time I went through the airport, and it was like, oh, that's Lala from MTV. Oh, Lala, I just want to say hi to you. And I was like, what's going on here? Because on radio, especially at that time, people didn't really see your face that much. If you were hosting a club or something, but for the most part, you didn't really know people's faces like that.
And then when you saw them, you were a little disappointed.
Sometimes.
That's what you call it. You got a radio face.
A radio face for radio. But then when I was like, oh, people are like, this is a thing, I was like, oh, life is starting to change a little bit. But again, to be on Direct Effect and TRL, like you said, in the height of pop culture, and to be Black doing that. This wasn't BET, this was MTV, where it wasn't a lot of Black talent on there, especially not on TRL after Carson left. So to be like that person for them, I took so much pride in that. And I was like, you know, this is bigger than me, and I want to bring our voice to MTV. And I think I did a good job at it.
You did a great job. You're the blueprint for so many people. Like so many young personalities now want to be like Lala because that's when they first saw her as a DJ on MTV.
Right.
What memories do you have of TRL?
You know, thinking back, I'm like, wow, that was just such an exciting time in my life. But I was working so hard. You know, you going to work, it's your job. Sometimes you don't take it all in. And we got to remember to live in the moment and take those incredible moments in. But to be in Times Square every single day and look out that window, and there's hundreds, sometimes thousands of kids outside screaming your name and whatever artist is coming on, like, it was just like an incredible thing. And interviewing every day on TRL, you got all the biggest stars coming through, and they're like just talking to you, and you're rubbing elbows with them. It was a really incredible time. And then it allowed me to move back to New York. So now I'm super young. I'm back in New York. I'm on TV every day. I'm meeting so many people. Like, it was just an incredible experience.
What were some of the struggles you faced?
It was live television. It is no do-overs. It's no, okay, cut, let's do that again. So you always had to be on top of your game. And I always felt like, one as a female and one as African-American female, I always felt like I couldn't mess up. There was no room to mess up. Like, they could have found somebody else quickly. I always felt like that. So I always took it really seriously. And then at the point where you start realizing, like, I love this, but what else? And the thing about MTV, when I was there, was so crazy because people always say, like, this is the gift and the curse. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, nobody does anything after MTV. Like, you've peaked. This is like the height of your career, and there's nothing else after this. And I'm like, oh, nah, this not gonna be it for me. Like, this I'm gonna do something different, but trying to figure out, like, what is that different thing?
You lived a big chunk of your adult life on TV.
Yeah.
One of my first major TV looks was with you. You know, you did 5 seasons of Lala's Full Court Life.
Yes, oh my God, we had so much fun.
A ball.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about the time we went to Miami with Trina and we went to
Yes.
I forgot what the name of that strip club was, but what was it like giving people that level of access to your life?
It was different. I enjoyed it, but then I realized when it was becoming too much access and people having too much to say and just giving people like such a look into my life while I was doing it, it was so fun. And I think it was the logical next step to take me into the next part of my career I wanted to go into, which was acting and producing. So I think it was a good kind of step in between. And to this day, I mean, people are like, bring back Full Court Live. We love that show. Like, they loved it. It was, you know, it wasn't a lot of reality TV at that time. I mean, they had reality TV, but not like now.
How did it affect your mental health when you first started doing that show back then?
It was hard because, you know, when you're on TV, everybody got something to say.
Exactly.
Like, they got something to say about everything. Well, this is why this is going on in her life, or why she got that on, or she's with this basketball player, you know what he's doing. You know, it just became like an open feast for people to just say and do whatever they wanted to do. And it took a while to get strong enough to be able to not let that bother you or deal with that. But it did take that for me to get strong enough to not let it bother me.
Now, what kind of pressure did being in such a high-profile relationship for many years put on you?
It was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure. You know, it's good that comes with it, and it's bad. When it's good, and when it's bad, it's bad. Because when it's bad, then everybody got something to say about it. Everybody has, well, I knew, or I should have, she should have known, or this and that. But I didn't know a lot of it. I went into it because this is somebody I loved, but I was leading with love. I wasn't leading with anything else. So I was like, well, what you expect? You was with a basketball player, or what you thought was gonna happen? It's like, actually, I didn't think that was gonna happen. So it happened, and it was a learning experience, and it's just another chapter in my life that I can learn from, but it's also the chapter that brought me my greatest gift, which was my son.
Absolutely.
So it's not something I ever will regret or anything like that. I mean, we did some amazing things together. We had an amazing time together, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
You know, we all grow over time. You know, when you look back at the person you were at the start of that relationship to the person you are now, what's the biggest changes within you?
Within me, I think that stepping away from that marriage was such an incredibly hard decision for me, but it made me realize, like, there's nothing I can't do. Staying is easier. Staying is easier.
Really?
Walking away is harder. Staying in your comfort zone, what you know, your house, your kids happy because their parents are together, that's easier. Walking away on your own and trying to rebuild a life by yourself, I was with him when he was 19 years old. Like, that's all I've known. So to step away from that and try to build my own life and still keep my sanity and keep things normal for my son, who only knew his mom and his dad together, that wasn't the easier decision. But I had to make a decision for myself. So now it's like, wow, if I could do that, I can do anything. And it's been years, it's been a few years now, but there's still really hard days when you look back, because this is not the life I thought I was gonna be living right now. When you marry somebody, that's what you picture your life to be like for the rest of your life. You don't go into marriage like, oh, I'm just gonna do this for 2 or 3 years and then I'm done. This is like your life partner. So when it doesn't work out, it's like, oh shit, now what? What do I do now? And so I had to figure out what I needed to do then, and I'm still figuring out what I'm doing now. Navigating in this new waters of like social media and trying to date, and this is some other shit right here. This is not easy, especially when you haven't been doing it.
Yeah, I can't see you out here in these streets, Lala. I really can't see it for you.
It's tough. It's tough.
How would you describe your relationship with Melo now?
Great. Co-parenting, amazing. We want to be a great example to our son. We have open conversations with him. Like, we tell him, you know, you were made from love. We're still a family, and we do things together. We go to his games together. You know, we try to keep it as normal as possible. Like, I do it, you know, for my son. I don't want my son to look at his parents like they didn't get along or they were arguing all the time, because he's looking at us as an example of relationships that he's going to have in the future. And I don't want him to have dysfunctional relationships or think, you know, treating people a certain way is like the norm, or, well, that's all I saw, so that's how it is. Like, I want him to be better when it comes to that. And what makes me the most sad is that I wanted to be a better example to my son than what I saw. And I didn't necessarily do that. So that makes me sad. But
that's not your fault, though.
It's not my fault, but it's like, I always said, like, I wanted to be different for him. And then it turned out to be similar, in some ways worse, because it was so public. And he got to an age where he was seeing everything and reading everything. So it's like, well, Mom, they saying this. Is this true? Mom, my friends at school are asking me this. Is this going, like, so it became that. So we had to navigate through all of that. So the fact that I couldn't necessarily protect him from that, that still hurts me. But I try to make up for it in other ways by just being open with him and still showing him a loving household, co-parenting situation. So I work really hard at that for those reasons, because I couldn't imagine being his age and having to see all of this stuff and question what's real, what's not. Why are they saying this about my dad? Why are they saying this about my mom? I couldn't even fathom having to deal with that at that time, 11, 12 years old.
Especially if you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, and then the parents are telling the student stuff, and he's coming to school like, they said this. I'm like, that's their little parents saying this.
Did you feel ashamed?
Not ashamed. I was never ashamed because I didn't do anything.
Right.
I was never ashamed because that wasn't my burden to bear, because I didn't do anything. I felt sad that he had to go through that. I felt sad that I had to go through that. I had to go through it publicly and still wear a smile and, damn, Lala, she's handling it as well. But nobody knows what's going on once the door closed.
You
or
a
once
cancer. You
crying
tears, buckets of tears. Yes. hard exterior,
yes,
soft interior.
and that's it. I'm like the true definition of a cancer. Everything a cancer is me. But I knew I had to, what was I gonna do, die? Like, I had to build myself up and continue to live. I have a lot to live for. My son, obviously, my career, my family. Like, I wasn't gonna let this destroy me, but there were moments where you felt like, how am I gonna bounce back after this one? It's tough.
So what are your thoughts on love now? And what do you hope for in the future? For everybody out there wanting to shoot their shot at Laleezy.
I do hope that I'll find love again one day. I can't necessarily say I'm the most confident about it. Sometimes I'm like, maybe it's just not in the cards for me. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? I just feel like, maybe an incredible son and an incredible career is like, that's for me, and maybe it's just not gonna be like this incredible love. And then people are like, you can't say that. Words have power. You got Sierra over here, one of my best friends, like, no, you need to pray the exact kind of man you want. You need to pray. You need to, and I do pray, and I definitely pray that it will happen. But I'm also at a place where if it doesn't, then it doesn't. I'm gonna still have fun. I have great friends. I have great family. I'm not lacking like in that department. I would love it, but it's slim pickings out here.
I mean, the love is one thing. You love yourself, so you don't always have love to give.
Right.
But could you trust somebody?
Could you trust? That's hard. That's hard. It's hard to trust. It's hard when you've been like scarred in a sense, or when you went through trauma the way I went through trauma. Yeah, it is. It's hard. I'm like, damn. That really messed me up in a lot of ways. But I'm in therapy. I'm dealing with my own stuff, and I would love to find love and a companion to do fun stuff with, and someone I can rely on. And we just got to see what happens.
Well, you talk about a companion. You got a best friend, named Cayenne.
Yes.
All right, he's 15. I know you two have a very close relationship.
Very.
What's it like being a mom to that tall teenage boy?
It's my best, most favorite job that I have. He is my best friend. I always say I got a son and a best friend in one. And, I hear people say, like, you shouldn't be your kid's best friend. Like, you have to be the parent. You have to be the disciplinarian. It's like, I am the parent, but he's also my best friend. This is who I live with. This is who I'm with all the time. This is who sees me at my highest and my lowest, and who I talk to about everything. He is my best friend, and it's great that he's maturing now and understanding things differently. We could have real intense conversations, real educated conversations about my job, about life, about his school or basketball or whatever. It's great that, we have each other in that sense. But I just want him to be a humble, kind person. He loves basketball. He's an incredible player, but I want him to know, there's more to life than just playing basketball.
He's got 400,000 followers on Instagram, and he definitely grew up in the public eye. So what's been the biggest challenge raising your son in this business?
Keeping him grounded, but his personality, he's so laid back and quiet. Like, I just got a kid that wasn't about, he doesn't like all the extra. If he came in here, he'll turn right. He doesn't want to see cameras. That's just not his personality. So I've been blessed that he shies away from it instead of towards it. And the challenge is like now when Cayenne goes out, he's recognized so much, and people want to talk to him and take pictures and things like that. So that scares me a little bit, and that's something I monitor, because everyone doesn't always have, the best intentions. So I'm just careful with that.
And he's got to get used to it because he looked like he's going to the league from what we see. So he got to get used to the camera.
Thank you. Yeah, he does. He's doing well, and he's always like, Mom, do you need anything? My mom recently, Cayenne got some money, like $5,000 or something, but it was so sweet because he called my mom the next day and was like, Grandma, I want to Cash App you some money.
Wow.
And he just did that on his own, and I was so proud of that, and he cashed apped her however much it was. But I was like, maybe I'm doing things the right way over here. That was like a proud moment.
Now let's talk about work.
Yes.
You got a lot of projects. At this point in your career, do you still feel like the teenage girl hustling to make things happen?
Always, always, always hustling and just continue to expand. We're in a business where you can never get comfortable or stagnant. Like, when has anyone really made it? Like, it's never a point where you're like, I made it, now I don't have to do anything else. There's always more to do. And now that I've ventured into acting and producing, it's like a whole new world has opened up. And I've been blessed to have such an incredible friendship, partnership with 50, who has opened so many doors for me from an acting perspective and a producing perspective. We have a bunch of projects together, and just
50 the man right now. He's killing.
He's great. To be on his great side is one of the best things you could ever do. But what I'll say about him is that, and I always tell him this, he's the one person, especially in my life, like, when he says he's gonna do it, he really does it. We come from a world, it's like, I got you. I'm gonna look at it, it's like, okay, what does that mean? Like, everybody got you on the next thing or that. It's like, no, La, we're gonna do this, and then we really do it. Like, we're gonna produce this, we do it. I'm about to create this show called Power. I'm gonna bring you in for an audition because I want you to earn it. Work really hard. And then I get called for the audition, and I go in, and I have to go back and back and back and really earn it. BMF, I got something for you. You got to earn it. Let's go in there and wow them. I'm on, table read. He's really, really helped me in this kind of second phase of my career, and I'm very, very grateful to him.
Power was a huge catapult for your acting career. You speak so highly of 50. How did you find your tribe in Hollywood?
That's difficult because a lot of times, actors, not always, but it's like, well, you didn't come from this. You were like a VJ or a radio person. Like, you don't really do this. And it took me really going to school, acting school, classes, still working to really show people like, no, I really do this. And I can really do it to a high level. And it took things like even getting nominated for the NWCP Award for my work in The Chi to be like, this is really happening. Like, I really put my heart and soul into this, and people are recognizing it. But the Hollywood tribe, like spirits and minds just find each other,
Right.
So I have a great group in that Hollywood, world, especially, people like Gabrielle Union that I just did a Netflix movie with, who always is there for advice and navigating through this stuff. I just did a movie with Nia Long. These are like the legends. And like to now have them on my phone where I could call anytime, like those are things I just never take for granted. That doesn't ever get old to say, I got a question. Let me call Nia real quick. Let me call Gab real quick. Like, it's just something I would never, take for granted. And also, Will Packer really gave me my shot in Think Like a Man. Think Like a Man 2. That was the first, big movie I ever did, and the first big producer to say, no, we gonna give her a part in this, and we're gonna really, put some money behind her and see what happens. And I think I've made everybody proud.
Playing Dom in The Chi, was the NWCP Award the most rewarding part of that?
It was.
Okay.
It was to me. It was. It's like, it's not about getting recognized. You got to be happy with your own work and be happy with yourself. But it is nice when people start paying attention to your work and start, talking about how good you were in something, especially for me who didn't come from that. It's like, oh, you're a VJ, you're a radio host, you're not supposed to be an actor, or you just doing this for fun, or all you're ever gonna get is cameo roles or things like that. So when you come from that and you put so much work into it and it is recognized, it does hit different. Cause it's like, finally, I've been working on this shit for so long, finally. And on Power, we talked about before, people loved me and people hated me on Power. I got both, but it's like, I was talking, and now, more working out the craft. Now it's NAACP nomination.
Now, you came forward recently about discovering a heart condition and having emergency surgery. You said it was a terrifying experience, but it made you reprioritize yourself. How have you done that?
So it's like we talked about, the work, go, don't sleep, off a plane, land, go to set, 16-hour days, go to Cayenne's game. It's constant, and you realize like you can't just go on that speed all the time. I feel so guilty of like taking a day off or like even taking a trip. I'm on a gram, I'm like, everybody is always on a trip. They on a vacation. I'm like, I never go on trips.
You have to, that's
and I'm
self-care.
like, I have to. Like, I work so hard. And when everything happened with my heart, I was like, yo, this is scary. Like, you could really work yourself to death or
That's
work
right.
yourself in the ground. And then what? My mom would be like, and then, yeah, one day on Instagram, we loved her, she was great, and then everybody moves on. It's just how life is. So if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to? So I'm still working at it because I haven't found that balance completely the way I would like to, but I think I'm getting better at it.
How often does work get in the way of your self-care?
Always. It's always in the way of my self-care because I'm always like, I'm gonna take this day off and then calls start coming into this and I gotta handle this, or Cayenne, practice, I wanna be there. It was never really a day off. So work does always get in the way, but I'm getting better at saying no and realizing like I don't have to do everything. I used to feel like I had to do it all because if not, they're gonna find somebody else. Like if I say no, they're gonna find somebody else and I can't let anybody else, get my spot or whatever. Now it's like, I feel like my spot is somewhat secure, so it's okay to say, I can't do that today.
All right.
That's what I'm working on the most.
If you could go back, what would you say to your 15-year-old self?
I would say to my 15-year-old self that everyone is not going to like you, and that's okay. Do what makes you happy, not doing things because you want to make everybody else happy or everybody else like you or think, wow, she's doing great things or making great decisions. Do what makes you happy.
What do you want to say to a 60-year-old Lala Anthony?
When I look at my life, my assistant told me the other day, she was like, I feel like you've lived like 5 different lives in one.
Yeah.
When I look at like the teenage years with Shaka, and then the radio, and then the MTV years, and then the reality years, and then the acting years, and just everything that happened in between all of that, the marriage, just dating and life or whatever. It's like, it does feel like 5 lives in one, but it's been very fulfilling. And I'm happy to say I lived a very fulfilled life. There's more to do, but at 60, I would just be like, for a girl from Brooklyn, parents, mom born in the Marcy Projects, didn't have anything, to what I've created for myself and my family, is something I'm proud of.
You won.
Thank you.
You know how I feel about you. I love you. I value you.
I love you.
I appreciate you, Lala.
Thank you.
Lala Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you.